Kusampo and a very good morning. I am Nubutema, Director with the Bhutan Foundation Office here in Thimphu. A very warm welcome to everyone in the audience. Thank you for joining this webinar on early childcare and education, the journey to school. It'll be a focused conversation around the role of ECCD in preparing and transitioning children with special needs to formal education. Through this webinar, we are hoping to share some of our work and experiences of the foundation and our partners. The Perkins International, based in US, is our long-term partner who have been advising and providing expertise on all our special education programs. Perkins is one of the leading institutions providing services and expertise worldwide in promoting education and learning for children and persons with disability. With Perkins, we have trained and mentored special education teachers, ECCD facilitators. We have developed materials and resources for the special education schools, ECCDs, and we have also worked in training parents to plan and better support transitioning children with disabilities from home to ECCD and to school. As we all know, the importance of early childcare and development in the larger education system is fairly a new development for Bhutan, and it is only now that it is receiving attention. The number of ECCDs have also grown from a handful to about some 160 plus centers in the last 10, 20 years. The services and awareness of the ECCD providers have also evolved, and from what started off as just a daycare for busy parents to drop off their children while at work, especially amongst the educated population, it has now focused on early learning and stimulation for the child's growth and development. And as parents, we all go through an anxious period looking for suitable ECCDs. This is much more stressful for parents with children with disabilities or developmental delays. And there are concerns like around equitable access to ECCD, inclusion, how well equipped the ECCDs are in terms of managing our children with special needs. And quite often here in Bhutan, development challenges and difficulties in children which were not identified or detected by parents are often revealed, and it becomes more apparent once the child starts ECCD. So sooner a child starts ECCD, early detection happens, which can then be followed by early intervention, both at home and at ECCD. There is also growing evidence of how early interventions and ECCDs can set children onto a path of success, in general for all children, but more so for children with disabilities and developmental challenges. The Ministry of Education and teacher training colleges and other partners have initiated various policies and programs to promote ECCD as one of the key priorities of the government. They have set up SEND schools, ECCD in remote communities. In the urban centers, the ECCDs are mostly private run services. We will be discussing in detail about this topics in this webinar with our speakers who have firsthand experience as parents, facilitators, and educators. This webinar is moderated by Dr. Namita, who is a Senior Education Specialist for the Asia Pacific region for Perkins International. And Dr. Namita is not new to Bhutan and understands our context and system very intimately. She has worked with our parents and teachers and facilitators for several years. We will open the webinar to questions and answers later. So please, in the audience, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment box. The moderator and speaker will try to respond and address the questions. And without further delay, we will get the webinar started. So I will pass it on to Sonam, who's the program manager handling the special education, to introduce the speakers. Over to you, Salam.
Thank you, La, and it is a great privilege for me to introduce our three panelists today and also share briefly on what we, Bhutan Foundation and the Perkins International, how we have been working with our panelists, these individuals we have today and their organizations. La. And with that, I would like to begin with Ms. Prashanti, who is a parent of a child with special needs and one of the co-founders of Phensem Parent Support Group, a CSO based in Thimphu, working to advocate for positive change on social challenges faced by parents, families, children, and persons with disabilities. Our journey with Ms. Prashanti started when her son was very young, and it has given us great pleasure to support her on her dream to start a parent support group. And we continue to work closely with Phensem across many of their programs. So Ms. Prashanti, welcome, La. Next we have Ms. Yangree, Madam Yangree, who is a facilitator and a proprietor of Hejo Eccd. Many of us in Thimphu know about Madam Yangree and Hejo Eccd, but for those who may not be aware, Hejo Eccd was established in 2011 and is one of the few inclusive ECCDs that cater to children with special needs in Bhutan. We've been working with Hejo Eccd since 2018, 2017, 2018, mainly due to their commitment in developing inclusive services. It has been a privilege to work closely with Hejo Eccd in providing technical expertise to develop inclusive programs and enhance the skills of their facilitators. Welcome, Madam Yangree. Next, we have Ms. Pema Yangzom, who is a lecturer for the inclusive education at the Paro College of Education and is personally a big advocate for disability rights. Given our long-term involvement in special education in Bhutan and our current engagement in addressing the needs of children with complex needs, we partner with Perkins to bring in our practical experiences and expertise to the future educators through our lecture series program with the Paro College of Education. Again, welcome to all our panelists and thank you for being here. With that, I would like to pass it on to Dr. Namita to start the main event for today. Thank you.
Thank you. I represent Perkins International region. It's really been my privilege to work in close partnership with the Bhutan Foundation as a knowledge partner in their goal of creating, enabling quality education. And in this role, it's also been a great pleasure to be able to work closely with all the people sitting around, joining to talk specifically about early childhood. Significant brain growth and development happens in the first 5 years. And world over, the importance of this period has led to the development of early childhood services for this reason, so that all children can access high quality experiences and then create a strong foundation, both of health, but specifically of brain development and readiness to learn. Particularly when a child has a delay or has an impairment, ECCD can actually provide a very valuable and very supportive learning environment. And yet, for many people, ECCDs are typically thought of as care facilities, a safe place where you send kids where it's not convenient or not possible for you to care for them. Particularly when a child has a delay or a disability, the social pressure of sending your child away to be cared for by somebody else. This is really challenging. Sorry, Are you not able to hear me?
Dr. Namita, can we try without your earphones, maybe?
Is this better? Is this
Okay.
better, Sona?
Yes, better.
Okay, so let's continue. So as I was saying, when a child has a disability or a delay, then there's also the social pressure that you may face as a parent. Why would you place your child away from you in the care of another, especially when they are so young? If you really look at the curriculum, the holistic curriculum created for children here in Bhutan for this particular age group, it's fantastic. It provides children with opportunities to develop the brain, develop spirit, develop body, develop social skills in ways that may not be available in many homes. But a curriculum is only one part of developing quality skills. And this is really what the conversation is about today. Do we believe that children with disabilities can and should be served in the Eccd? Is the community accepting or critical of parents who choose this as an option? What about the level of preparedness and readiness of those who implement the curriculum? How does the community in general support Eccd programs? What are some challenges that Eccd programs face? And to help us address these questions, we have with us the three speakers who have been engaged and have deep experience in Eccd services from very different perspectives. I'd like to open our conversation with you, Madam Pema, because for many of the listeners out there, it would probably be helpful to hear when and why Eccd was brought into the educational system in Bhutan, and whether, and could you give us some perspective of the role of Paro College in the preparation of Eccd professionals as well?
Thank you, Dr. Namita. So I would like to wish all the viewers a very warm good morning. I'm Pema Yangzom from Paro College of Education. So if I directly answer Dr. Namita's questions, so if I start with why Eccd was brought into the educational system of Bhutan. So Eccd is a relatively new development in Bhutan. So Eccd has gained some light and become the priority of the government only during the 9th five-year of plan, that is from 2001 to 2007. So prior to that, the government has not accorded much importance to the Eccd because of the strong traditional and extended family system. So the Ministry of Education has first conceived the idea of Eccd somewhere in 2002. The foremost reason why Eccd was brought into the educational system of Bhutan is from the findings from the neuroscience of the benefits of Eccd program in the holistic development of the young children. So by then, there was an emergent understanding of conducive environment for emotional, physical, and intellectual advancements of the young children. So it was during that 5-year period that the government led all the foundational work for instituting Eccd services in the country. So the development of the Eccd in the country can partially be attributed to the Bhutan's ratification of United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and Education for All, that was ratified in 1990. In 2006, a commission was formed by the cabinet ministers to examine the Bhutan's education sector. And one of the recommendations given from that committee was to provide a universal and high quality early childhood education. Based on the studies that has been conducted in Bhutan. So another reason why Eccd was brought into Bhutan and why it is gaining spotlight and popularity, especially these days, is due to the decline of joint family support in child rearing and upbringing of the child, unlike in the olden days. So I've mentioned that in the traditional practice, the children were taken care by the extended family. So the grandparents, the uncle, aunties, and the cousins, everyone in that family will have a role in bringing up the child. So, but now with emergence of more nucleated family systems and more numbers of girls were admitted to schools and more number of mothers are working. So that's why Eccd was seen as one of the essential support system for working parents, especially in the urban system, urban centers. So now coming to how PCE is, Paro College of Education is involved in preparing the facilitators. Paro College of Education was involved in the beginning when the national policy for early childhood education and development was in conception phase. So faculties from Paro College of Education were actively involved in providing basic training to Eccd facilitators around the country with the hope and aspiration to support the Ministry of Education in professionalizing the Eccd force. So with the multi-sectoral collaboration, the Paro College of Education has introduced a 3-year diploma course in early childhood care and development. So with this program, Paro College of Education aspires to prepare competent and professionally trained Eccd facilitators. So currently we have about 150 graduates so far working in different Eccd centers all over the country. So some of the Eccds that our graduates are working are affiliated with Ministry of Education, and some of them are working in private Eccd centers that are run privately by the private owners. So that is my answer for the first question.
So a 3-year diploma program? Is that what you said? A 3-year diploma? The students come in for 3 years and stay in Paro, or how does this work?
The students, they usually come to the college in the winter. So the program usually commences during the winter. So they will be in the campus for about 8 weeks. So from the 8 weeks, approximately 4 weeks are given each for spring and autumn semester. So when they are in the campus, we usually have face-to-face discussion where the tutors do the theoretical input and other necessary discussions. So after they leave the campus, they go back to their respective centers and they try to use and they try to apply the skills and knowledge that they have learned from the course when they are in the campus during the winter. So the assessment is 100% formative. So it is based on online mode, whereby there are only a certain percentage of face-to-face interaction. I would say about 10% face-to-face interaction, and the rest of the duration of the course is done online, whereby the facilitators have to be at the center trying to apply the skills and knowledge they have received. And in turn, the tutors back at the college, we design assessment systems which are very practical, hands-on, and where they have to use in their day-to-day practices. So we do the assessment, they send us their assessment, but the assessments are very qualitative, whereby we make sure that if the facilitators have actually learned something from the program, and if they're actually practicing it at the center with evidences, yes.
Right. That's fantastic. It's really great that you keep close tabs, because in the grand scheme of things, it's a comparatively new program. There's enough of flexibility to keep modifying based on what you're really seeing in the field. That's really a promising and good practice. I'm going to switch for a moment to Madam Yangree. Hejo has been an inclusive Eccd for quite a while now. And I can say, as someone who's been involved with Hejo for quite a while, that it's a really excellent inclusive Eccd. But I'm just curious, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is curious. Can you talk to us a little about how you came to make this decision to offer inclusive services, and what does it really mean to run an inclusive ECCD?
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, everybody, for this wonderful opportunity. My name is Yangree. I'm from Hejo. Well, to answer your question, Doctor, to be very honest, like everybody, I started this journey as a business. I thought of it as a way to earn a living, and everything was going smoothly. But then children of all kinds showed up. There were children of every kind, every ability. So I decided, instead of shutting the door on them, I decided just to be available. I said, okay, we're open for all. And so that was that decision I made, along with my team, of course. We have a nice group of ladies who work with us. So I think it was that initial decision I made. We are just going to be available. So that helped. And after that, I actively sought out for support with the ministry, with whoever, ABS, all the wonderful organizations that are already present in our country, and they were all willing to help. So with the help of experts, we worked together, and they helped us set up a nice system, like a very doable system, which I can get into detail later. But the initial decision happened with that attitude change in my head.
But running an ECCD, as it were, that is inclusive, has that been very different from just running an ECCD? Does it feel like you're doing some hugely different thing?
Actually, not really. It's the same thing. It's like living. You're living. It's a life. It's the way we live. And in life, there are things that come at you. And when things come at you, you have to find a way to resolve it or solve it. So when you're an inclusive or a center, it's just a way of living. That's how I see it. And it's not any different. It's just there are more things to do. Yes, more things to do for sure. But I see it as just the way it is.
Right. If you think back on, kind of the time before you made this decision and before you offered this option, and how you provide services today, do you feel that the widening or deepening of your services, the addition of whatever it is that you've had to add, has only benefited the children who come with delays or difficulties? Or do you feel that there are some of the things you've put in place that in fact have been supportive to other kids, all kids?
For sure, it is a plus for everybody, because we decided to include all our children, and because they come with various needs and various abilities, we had to modify certain things in our environment, and that only enhanced the growth of not just the children with disabilities, but everybody else and us as facilitators. We had to up our game. We had to do more learnings. So it benefited everybody. And I think one of the reasons we are happy is because we just see it around us. Like we feel happy to see that everybody's included, and it's that nice effect it has. So overall, it's been a wonderful, but with a little bit of challenge, of course, experience.
Yeah, I can imagine that there has to be challenge. It's not possible that there isn't. But as you said, all children come to us, just offering ECCD services itself comes with its package of difficulties, and no doubt it's along with its packages of enjoyment, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's, in that sense, it's not that different. There's no doubt that you will every year with every child come up with yet another thing to learn or to worry about, right? The big message that I'm hearing from you is that opening Opening your services out has allowed you to build the capacity of your facilitators and widen and deepen it in a way that has supported all children. And equally, the structures and environments that you've created and maybe activities you've created have benefited all the kids. And that's an important thing to think about and to take away with us. I'm going to switch to Prashanti. Our Prashanti is actually going to respond to us from multiple perspectives. But the first perspective that I'd like you to enter this conversation into from is really that of a mom, because all those years ago when Sid was a little fellow, I can't imagine how many years ago now, you know, I still remember meeting you and Sid at home and having these conversations, and you know, that first sort of decision took you a while to come to. Yes, he needs this experience. I want you to talk a little about that, because Sid is a child with all kinds of complexities, and it's an unthinkable step for most parents to take a very little boy with all kinds of difficulties and have him, as I said, in the care of another. You know, how can you talk to us a little bit about that motivation? What did you go through in your mind? Can we start with that?
Thank you. First of all, good morning, afternoon, or evening to everybody, wherever you're watching this from. And thank you very much, Bhutan Foundation and Perkins, for creating this platform. And you've brought us all together to, you know, share our stories and our views and our insights. And today's topic is so important, early intervention. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, like Namita explained just a while ago, I'm here wearing two hats today. One as a co-founder of a parent support group, and the other one as a mom, my primary role. So I have, in my family, I have two children, Samara, my older one, she's 16, and Siddharth, my younger one, who's going to be 12 in a few months, 2 months actually, 2 months time. And then there's my husband and I, so there's 4 of us in our family. And then I have an extended family, and the one who changed our lives obviously is little Sid, we call him Sid. And so coming back to early intervention, now when we talk about and when we mention early intervention, I think the first thing that comes to one's mind is getting access to the right therapies for your child. And I did that too. Like when I noticed at about the age of 6 months that Sid was not behaving the way a 6-month child typically should. I mean, now remember, I was a mother for the second time, so I knew what to look out for. So when he was not doing that, I started running to various therapists and researching online and looking for ways and means to fix him. And we did that for many, many years. And then when Sid turned 6, he was still at home. Whereas in Bhutan now, at the age of 6 is when the schools open their doors and all children go to school. And my son was not doing that. He was at home. And by this time, I had already connected with Bhutan Foundation and with Dr. Namita through Bhutan Foundation on a very informal, personal level. And then, you know, they made me realize that I was so busy trying to fix him that I forgot about the quality of his life. Whatever I was doing was like from my perspective as a mother, but I forgot to step into the shoes of a 6-year-old child and try and understand what he or she wants. You know, I forgot to understand what my son wants and what he likes. And then I was like, okay, 6 years, the others are going to school, but my son, I decided that he was going to enter into an Eccd center. And that's how I connected with Yangree. And I met with her, and it was quite a big decision, because my son has very, very profound challenges. He's living with cerebral palsy. It's spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which means he cannot use any of his entire body, actually. And he has to be carried. He's almost 12 now, like I told you, but he still has to be carried like a little baby. And he has to use diapers because he cannot use the bathroom like a typical 12-year-old would. And to add to that, he also has a very complex condition of visual impairment. Like it's not like simple blindness, but it's quite a complex thing. So all this combined together, it is quite profound, you know, the disabilities that my son has. But what we did was we decided to stop looking at what Sid cannot do, but let's look at what he can do and what he would like to do. So that's how we started. And when we went to Yangree, I think it was the very first time for Yangree that she was looking at a child with these kind of conditions, you know, and we were both scared, but and the biggest thing, the one thing I really have to mention about Madam Yangree here is like, she didn't know how to, she really didn't know how to take Sid in and teach him, like, you know, get him started. But she had the courage to say, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And we took it very slow. We took it step by step. And another thing is that when we said, okay, and Yangree said, okay, now we're going to start with Sid and we're going to learn every day. She didn't pretend to be an expert. And she didn't say, okay, you do this for your child. No, we took it like every day, like before the Eccd session started in, I think, early February. We went in and two of us, we looked at the rooms and we said, okay, Sid has a little wheelchair. And so you need a little small, like there was a step. So we need to put a little ramp in there. And then because Sid cannot use the bathroom like other typical children, he needs to have a space where he can, his diaper can be changed. So all those kind of things. So, you know, everything she discussed with me, because she respected the fact that as a parent, I knew best how to take care of my child. And she took it from there. So that's how it started. And Sid was there for 2 years. And after 2 years, he was 8 years old. And we realized, okay, now he's getting a little too old for Eccd. He has to move into a school setting. And then we had this entire process. By then, Bhutan Foundation and Perkins had entered into a partnership with Yangree. And we started this transition planning for him. So we took it step by step, and these wonderful people came. We met the teachers, and that's how it started. But I mean, I can go on, but to cut very short, what I want to say is what happened, what made it possible was the fact that I had this support from everybody, not just my family and my extended family, but the community, friends, experts, everybody. So that is what I want to say. I just want to mention the support that I received.
I think also there were two really important points that you brought up, Prashanti. That one, that we are so focused on fixing that you don't, you know, you're just, those become your major milestones. That becomes the way you come to decisions. I remember long before I met you, I actually saw you on a video talking about your dream for Sid, that he would go to a regular school. And when we met and Sid was 6, that of 5.5, somewhere close to that. And we were, you know, that was my question, is if you want him to go into a regular school, how can he be sitting at home? Yes. Because if he's sitting at home, it means that he has not had access to so many things, right? He's not had a chance to stay in for an extended period of time in a place that's not your home or his cousins or, you know, familiar, people familiar with him, to him, and spaces that are familiar. He's not had that opportunity. He's not hung out with other kids, and importantly, other kids have not hung out with him. That's really important, because you're going to put him in a school, he's going to be surrounded by kids his age who've never had an opportunity to interact. And here, he gets to grow with a cohort, right?
Yes.
That's something that we forget, especially when children have complexities, the feeling that when, let him get to this point, then we'll see. Let him talk, then we'll see. Let him do this, then we'll see. You kind of forget that nobody is born ready to go and sit in school. It's something that develops through the experiences of your first 5 years. An important point you also brought up is that nobody knew much, but everybody was ready to say he needs a child. It's something that he wants, that any 6-year-old or 5-year-old will want, any 3-year-old or 4-year-old will want to be able to play. And now I want to turn back to Madam Pema and say, from this perspective now, the facilitators that you train are quite young themselves. They're out of school. And I love that one of the qualifications, that are listed is that you must love children. You must have the nature of a person who enjoys children. How important is something like that? But even coming from that strength, it can be overwhelming when you have a certain perception of children, and then you have in your Eccd children who look different, behave different, learn different. To what extent does the training program offered now really prepare facilitators to work with children with special needs, and particularly, listening to how much Yangree and Prashanti together defined what is going to be the experience that SID has and the facilities that SID has. To what extent are facilitators prepared to work with families of children with special needs? Madam Pema?
Yes, currently, Paro College of Education offer a distance mode diploma program in early childhood care and development for the Eccd facilitators for the duration of 3 years. So this program, like I've mentioned, it commences during the winter and they come on campus, and then we do the necessary discussions and theoretical input. So after they are done with their training on campus, they go back to their respective centers and they apply the skills and knowledges that they have learned during their winter classes. So to be honest, I'm not very confident enough to say that we prepare our facilitators thoroughly in order to work with children with disabilities and their family members. But to some extent, we prepare them to work not only with children with disabilities, but all children from various backgrounds. So there is a general understanding that inclusion is not only for children with disabilities, it is also for, it is also for children without disabilities who are typically developing, but also have some differences, like what kind of background are they coming from and what are their language abilities and what kind of support do they receive from their parents. And we must believe and we must know that how children learn is as different as our fingerprints. So it means that inclusion is not only for children with disabilities, but all the children out there in the Eccd centers. So if I talk about the preparation of Eccd facilitators, so for the course of 3 years part-time program, they have to attend about 20 modules. There are 20 modules offered for the Eccd facilitators, but there is one specific module that is called inclusive education that specifically talks about individual differences of the children and how to cater to their needs. So in this module, the contents and discussions are not that extensive due to lack of time and duration of the program. But however, this module aims to equip our students with the knowledge and skills on early childhood inclusion. We do our best to provide great we do our best to provide our facilitators with the knowledge. So after they go back to their respective centers, they try to create a more inclusive experience for children with and without disabilities in their center, and also how to collaborate and how to work with the families, and also the community. Yes, and yes.
Sorry, I was thinking that one of the important things you arm them with is this idea that variation is the norm, right? Yes, children learn in different ways, children come from different backgrounds, families are different, they come with different attitudes and ideas and goals when they place their children in ECCD, right?
Yes.
So really being prepared and being accepting of the idea of variation as being the human norm and something to be celebrated and not be terrified of is already something very valuable. However, certainly having specific skills on, so what do I do? How do I respond? What could I say? What should I be thinking about? These are some things that might also be useful and maybe essential given, the reality that children and ECCDs are spread through the length and breadth of this country with the very intention that children get a really good start. Is there a way that facilitators can reach out for problem solving or extra training, something like that?
Yes, we do orient our facilitators firstly on the importance of rapport between them and the children. We also talk about how they have to build a relationship with children first before they come to the center through different means of strategies. So I think the most significant content and the longest time spent on the lecture discussion is there is one aspect of the discussion where we talk about rights of the perspective of the assessment, whereby this discussion is on how to identify the children's basic needs are fulfilled, such as physiological needs and their needs to safety, their needs to be loved and accepted, and also their needs to feel valued and rights and needs to realize their potential, and how the facilitators can ensure that their rights are met at the center and also at home. And we also discuss how they can arrange the learning environment so that every child's rights are met both at home and at the center. So in addition to that, we do have a model ECCD center that is attached to the campus. So this center accepts a diversity of children, both with and without disabilities. So wherever necessary and possible, we try to arrange trips and observation in that center, because the center is run by well-trained facilitators. They are trained by the ECCD faculties at the college who has sound knowledge and skills in the field of early childhood care and development. So the best part of this module is the assessment, I would say, because we do not have exams. So the assessment are 100% authentic and formative, based on the reflection of their daily practices after they go back to their centers. So if I cite an example, there is an aspect of assessment where these ECCD facilitators, after they go back to the center, they will have to observe a child with special needs. So after they observe the child, they are required to draw up the areas of the need for that child. So it can be physiological needs, because there are children who are coming from poverty, whose basic needs are not fulfilled, like clothing, shelter, warmth. Yes, so they have to draw the needs of these children, and after they have identified what needs are to be met, they have to recommend some of the strategies how they can, as a facilitator, include all of these children in the center so that they have more inclusive environment in the center. So following that, they have to write a reflective report on whether the strategies they have recommended have worked or not, with pictorial and video evidences.
Yeah, that sounds really thorough, and I think it would be a really good practice because it's very open in its approach. It's really about investigating the situation and responding to it rather than trying to rank or place children. That's fantastic. Yangree, since we are talking about facilitators and facilitator readiness, can I ask you to speak a little bit about your experience in mentoring facilitators and this concept of co-facilitators. You're on mute, Yangree. You have to unmute.
Sorry. Thank you, Doctor. Your mentoring was your first question? Mentoring. Okay. So the first thing I look for when we need help is just like what you mentioned earlier, I always ask, do you like being with children? You know, why? And what do you like about children? And what did you like about your childhood? And I also say, what would you like to share that you know personally out of this life that we call life? What do you want to share with children? And then that gets them thinking. And then if there is anything interesting, like if you know that a facilitator or a candidate is a good one when they'll say something like, you know, I like to dance, so I want to show them how to dance, or I love to, you know, they have their own little hobbies that they want to show. So that's where we start with. And then we have the first thing I do with these young ladies is I try to show them that we need to be gentle all the time, to bond, like we have to bond with the children, like how Madam Pema said, the bonding to getting to know these children and the families is important. So we start with that. We start with hobbies, then we go into how can we bond and who do we connect with and which group of children are you more comfortable with, because we have children of different age groups, so 3 and 4s and 5s, and some are very good with little ones and some have more energy and they can handle the older ones. So that's how we select them. And then we have to talk about behavior management, because when we have children coming from various backgrounds, as Madam Pema said, and all kinds of family backgrounds, the way they're raised and the level of their understanding of instructions is very different. So we have to then be able to connect with them and make them understand how to listen to us. So we go through this whole thing about behavior management with the facilitators and talking and communication, and that's pretty much it. And after that, we go into we have some topics and modules that Bhutan Foundation and Perkins and Dr. Namita has set up for us, and we go through those the modules together.
In general, Yangree, what do you do to help them? Because I know you know, in almost every age group, you have children with really varied differences in their learning style and their needs. And I'm just wondering how you orient your facilitators to respond and to guide, to truly facilitate these children so they may move forward.
Okay, so what helps us is again bonding with the families first, like how Madam Prashanti said, that we got to know each other. So we do the same thing, and with the families we come up with a plan for their child, and that is the plan that is called the transition and mapping that we learned from Perkins and Bhutan Foundation. We use this documentation. This is from the families, so we get to know the child and we get to see like what is it that the parents want for the child, and then the facilitators are able to then really pay attention to that particular child or the children in the group, and then we help them that way with their group.
And the co-facilitators, this is something you developed, so can you talk a little bit about co-facilitators, what that means?
Sure. So actually it started with the word the shadow teacher. When Sid and his batch mates were leaving us, we were very, we wanted to help make his transition, him and his friends' transition smooth. So we went into this journey of looking for shadow teachers, and we tried that. And after that, that worked out for Sid maybe for a few years. And his friends, so they moved on with that. Then after that, we said, okay, we need the same support here with our children who are with us, but we are not teachers. So what are we? If I'm a facilitator and my responsibility is to come up with age-appropriate activities, and my responsibility is to look after the health and well-being of all the children in the group, then what is that person's responsibility? Who is that person going to be? So then we pulled in, we hired these new girls who were, willing, and they became the co-facilitators, meaning their job is to look after the emotional well-being, of the child with the special needs, or any child who has emotional needs or has a little extra needs. So that person then became the co-facilitator, and we have a few with us this time too.
And for those of you who join our masterclass later today, I think we'll have an opportunity to discuss a little more deeply what some of these strategies and plans look like. But it is perhaps an example of one of the things we've had to put in place in order that we are effectively able to support each and every child on their journey through the ECCD years. Right, Yangree? It's been something we've had to bring in. It's also a point of great contention, because I think we've all struggled with how to define the role, how to provide the right training, how to perceive them, how to help them perceive themselves, how to place them in that line between family, teacher, ECCD, school, the whole works. Prashanti, it was, Yangree's right, it was with your batch as the kids transitioned out of Hejo and into school that we started talking about having facilitators as a way to support them and make that transition more effective. We planned well in advance. I remember that for a year we had been talking about the journey. You're going to leave ECCD, you're going to move into a school, which school, what is the move going to take, what are the challenges that are going to be up ahead, and we tried to meet many of those things. But I want to focus in on this topic of co-facilitators, because they do serve as that connect, that bridge between the child in the ECCD and the group in the ECCD, between the ECCD and home, between the ECCD and school, between the home and school, and in many ways they are this linking role. How do we do this? How do we negotiate these various boundaries? What has your experience been, and what have some challenges?
Yes, much as I wanted my son to have an education, a real education in a regular school, it would not have been possible if I hadn't had the support of what we are referring to now as a co-facilitator. At that time, we, like Yangree said, we experimented with a number of terms, and we wanted something that was acceptable to everybody, like be it government organizations or the educational facilities or the parents, everybody. So yes, and like I mentioned before, for my son who had such a combination of such profound disabilities, it was going to be very difficult for the team at the Eccd to give him the best possible of support that he needed. And also for me as a parent to have that confidence to leave my child there in that center. So yes, it was like it really would not have been possible if I hadn't had that extra support. And that too, we took it very slowly. Like in the beginning, like I told you, we discussed, Yangree and I, and we decided that yes, we needed an extra pair of hands over there because like Sid needs so much of physical support. But in spite of that, like I was there sitting in the classroom with him. And in Hejo, the way, I think it's in all ECCDs, the children sit on mats on the floor and they run around, move from one room to the other, doing their various activities. So because my son cannot sit unsupported, I would sit with him on my lap, supporting him. So I was kind of like a piece of furniture, moving from one room to the next with my son. And we did it that way for like a few months. And at this point, I have to mention, like there was this Australian volunteer, Rachel. She was visiting Yangree's ECCD, and then she observed me like since morning. You know, I'm like moving there with my son in the movable chair from one room to the next, and then she was like, "Okay, you'll have to get out of here." And I was like, "No, Rachel, but my son cannot do without me. He's going to cry." And she literally, like, the only thing she didn't do was drag me out of that room, but like very politely, but firmly, she made me leave. And then I came out of the classroom and I could hear my son bawling, like he screamed and he cried for like 20 seconds. And then he stopped and he went back to doing what he was doing with the rest of the kids. And then I realized that it was okay to kind of step back because they were there, you know, and even by then I was still kind of terrible. Then Yangree allowed me to park my car outside and I would sit in the car so that I was there in case of emergency, anything, in case they needed me. So it was a very gradual process, but a time did come when I would drop him. And then with that confidence in me that I knew that it was okay, like my son was in good hands, I would leave. So until now that was in 2017 when my son joined Eccd Center. Now today in 2022, he is almost 12 and he is in a school, in Changanka school in class 3, and he still has the extra support. Now we call it an aid, we call it SEN aid. And for those of you who don't know, it's like SEN stands for Special Educational Needs. So we have an aid. So she's with him there in the class, and she functions as the bridge between the teacher, classroom, who's teaching him and everybody else. And she's there to facilitate any communication, any help he needs with the rest of his classmates, with the extra co-curricular activities, as well as she also serves as the connection between the parents. So it's like a whole
Package.
A package going on, yes, but it would not have been possible. And I could, there would be maybe some people like arguing and saying, no, but I want to be the best person. I'm the best person. Nobody can replace me. Right, nobody can replace the mother. But at the same time, the child needs to also understand that there is a whole world beyond what mommy can provide. You know, you need to be able to adjust with different kinds of persons. You need to be able to move into society. And the first step is through the ECCD and with the others in the ECCD besides the parents. Am I making sense?
Yes, I guess, you know, a lot of what you're saying is something that will resonate with parents, because for any parents, you know, for most parents, just leaving your child in an ECCD when they're so tiny and you've cared for them, you've been there all in all for so long, it's already a wrench. So much more a wrench when you know that there are specific things that your child needs because of health, because of their tolerance, because of whatever reason, their motor abilities, their language abilities, whatever it is that you've been super, super careful and responsive to. It's hard to feel like it's okay to not be there. But the truth is exactly what you said. If you don't do that, how will they learn and how will they be challenged to grow? to grow and to use all their strategies in order to survive in this world, because after all, that is what we want them to do, isn't it? It's also a great opportunity for everybody else to expand their skills in understanding how people may communicate, may move, may behave, may respond, etc. So everybody in this equation will build skills. The question really is around the definition, and I don't think in this one webinar we can answer it, but there are so many issues around this in-between figure who is so key and yet still so undefined that it's hard to understand what training does this person require, what role does this person really fill, who pays for this service, who does the person answer to, right? It just, how does the person relate? Because as I said, this is one individual who stands beside this child to facilitate, to create access, but not take over. And, it's a very fine role that sounds like it needs to be super specialized, but in reality, in our experience working with the facilitators at Hejo and in other places, it's almost like some people have a really good instinct that we then hone further. This is something I'm going to place now on one side because it's certainly something, that's far from resolved and cannot be resolved in this one webinar discussion. But the point is that from a parent perspective and from a practitioner perspective, from the Eccd or school perspective, this role is essential. It's essential because children will come to a point when they become independent in their ability to get the access that they require at different points in their life. And until such time, there has to be someone who is not parent and who is not teacher who serves this in-between role. I'm going to start closing our conversation because I want to leave the possibility for the audience to post their questions and be open to them. But before I move away from you, Prashanti, I want to ask you, parents do have these hesitations and worries, and so do Eccd facilitators and proprietors. What can you say to all these people when you think back on your experience or Sid's experience in Eccd and how supportive it is, and also drawing on your extensive experience as as Phensem in your numerous interactions with numerous parents? What can you say to give them the come on, you can do this?
It was a difficult journey, and it was long, it was arduous, but like I said in the beginning, I had a lot of support. And when I look back now, I see like how important those 2 years in the Eccd were for my son to be able to successfully transition him to a school setting, which was what I wanted for him. And it's a school, everybody deserves an education. Education is everybody's right, and education is much more than learning your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s. We tend to confuse literacy with education sometimes, but education is much more than that. And for that to happen, I think the first stage of moving out of the protective environment of your home and on your journey towards moving into society, the first step is to go into an Eccd center, because then it takes it very slow. if you put your child directly into a school, then what happens? School is much more structured. You have like 45 minutes of each period, and you have a bigger classroom, and sometimes it can be very overwhelming, especially for every child, but especially for the child who has disabilities. So there's this very gradual transition that an ECCD environment provides for a child. And looking
When
at
done well. When done
yes,
well.
yes, exactly.
Because otherwise it's not gradual and it's sometimes not helpful.
Yes,
right?
yes.
The
Sometimes
done well and key.
sometimes it can be the other way around. Sometimes it can be the other way around. But what I have observed, like personally for myself, for my son, and as a co-founder of a parent organization where we meet so many children now and we try to mentor them and coach them, what I have seen is that it really does help when you have your child go into an ECCD and then you gently take them through that process, therefore integrating them into school, which is like a more structured environment. I have seen it's like an obvious difference. I have seen the children, like a child into an ECCD and a child who's not been to an ECCD center. Believe me, there is a huge difference.
Yeah. I remember this feedback that we got also when we first transitioned the group of children into ESC, and the teachers were so amazed at how much that difference really was, and how many of the children were even transitioning more smoothly than many of the children who don't really have any major difficulty, but just never had that exposure.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Prashanti. Ma'am Pema, one last, second last question to you is there any research that Paro College is looking into that's specific to inclusive ECCDs? What do you feel needs to be addressed or understood better in this area in Bhutan?
Okay. Yes, Paro College of Education, I think I've not mentioned before, but Paro College of Education it's in planning phase, whereby we will introduce in-depth and rigorous and very comprehensive 4-year-long bachelor's in early childhood care and development. For that, we might do some need analysis. But some of the, in my opinion, some of the issues and some of the factors that should require more attention and needs to be addressed are, the most important thing is the assessment and identification of children with disabilities. So the identification and assessment is one of the inclusive aspects which are very important to assist facilitators in understanding and recognizing the barriers of children with special needs in the setting ECCD centers. So in my experience of working with parents, teachers, and also facilitators, most children with special needs does not have a proper diagnosis. So not only that, there are a diverse range of children coming from different backgrounds. So even without specific disability, some children may be at risk of poor learning outcome. So most ECCD centers and schools do not have a proper and uniform framework to assess children who are at the risk and at risk, so that they get timely intervention. The second point I'm about to discuss is also linked with the first one. So due to lack of proper assessment and identification, I think there is lack of early intervention services for children with disabilities. So early intervention is crucial in early years of child's development stages, as it can minimize the effects of the disability that they are diagnosed with, thereby enhancing their potential for independence as they grow up and as they transit from early years to the middle school and then adulthood. So with this right kind of intervention, children's development can be enhanced. For example, there are certain services which can be availed for certain kind of disabilities, such as speech therapy, such as occupational therapy. So I think, yes, this is one area where lapses should be addressed. And next factor can be also attitude and the mindset of the community as large. So there is a widespread belief that Eccd is just play all day long and babysitting, and there isn't much to it. And interacting with the facilitators who have already been graduated from PCE, Paro College of Education, they say that parents have a very high expectation from their children, whereby the centers are expected to teach literacy and numeracy to the children. So I think we should do away with this kind of mindset. And it is time that we know that Eccd prepares children socially, emotionally, and intellectually for their school years. And Eccd also cares about children's rights and how they should be treated. And the children are also taught to respect diversity during that early year. So when it comes to inclusion, the misconception that children with disabilities are incapable to learn, and this kind of mindset should be done away, and fuel the mindset of people with that every child is capable to learn, as long as we provide them with right support and right intervention.
Sorry, thank you. I think it's clear, isn't it? There's so much that still needs to be done. There's so much that still needs to be understood, and so much more information that needs to be made available in multiple ways throughout the country. Madam Yangree, you've been running Hejo as an inclusive Eccd for so many years now. What, in your opinion, when you look across Bhutan, what do you feel needs to happen? What do you feel needs to change so that we will see more and more children with delays and disabilities who will be served in Eccds? Big question. You're on mute.
Sorry. So mine is well, it's a big question, but I think I should address this. I just like how Madam Pema said, I think maybe we need to change the way we think just a little bit, just a little tweak. Maybe like for parents, seriously consider availing services from Eccds, knowing that it can make a difference for your child, whether they have disabilities or not. It will make a difference in your child's life, and it'll also benefit you. I tell my parents who come here, let them be. I'll take over. You go get your me time. You go run your errand. You take this time as your, it's your time. So overall, it'll be good for everybody. Also, when you trust us, when you start trusting the facilitators, we gain more confidence in what we do. And I'm hoping that we'll have, how do you say, that facilitators can see the meaning in what they do. Facilitators can see that their work is impactful and meaningful, not only to the children and to the parents, but also to themselves. Like it's such a rewarding job. So I hope to see that all across in all Eccds, like very enthusiastic facilitators, happy to be facilitators, not there because that's the end all. That was the only thing they got to do. This is a very rewarding field, and I hope to see that. And one more thing, maybe with the Paro College and Phensem, we can have more co-facilitators available for us private centers or government centers to avail these services, the skilled co-facilitators who we can hire, that is lacking. And that I'd like to see. Thank you.
This is your wish list, Yangree?
Yes, my wish list.
Okay, noted. We'll see. I mean, part of it is also that as you're talking about facilitators and skilled facilitators, there's a part of me wondering, and maybe Madam Pema, you're the one I should be asking it. Do you run I don't know, sessions, classes, something like continuing professional development opportunities for facilitators? Is that something that we can think about? Since the field is growing, changing, and knowledge is not static, the community is growing and changing, the laws are growing and changing, facilities are growing and changing. Is this something that we can think about, Madam Pema, as something we make available to all facilitators, that there may be continuing education opportunities for them, professional development opportunities?
I think yes, currently Ministry of Education might be providing some short-term training and courses in collaboration with Paro College of Education. And as far as I'm concerned, there are also agencies, private agencies which acts as consultant to provide such private trainings. And also when there is an ongoing program in Paro College of Education where Ministry of Labor and Human Resource recruits about 200 plus students, and they are sent to attend a short-term course program at Paro College of Education, whereby the faculties of Paro College of Education are actively involved in training these young students who can, go back and serve as the facilitators in different centers across the country.
Yeah. So what is in your view, because certainly we've not gone as far or as deep as we would like to, in your view, what do you wish to see for ECCDs in Bhutan? What do we still need to do?
All right, so in the future, yes, I do wish all the ECCD centers are fully inclusive, so that all the centers accept not only typically developing children, but also children with specific disabilities. So that also children with disabilities will make the most of their precious early years. So I also wish to see more passionate and professionally qualified candidates working as the facilitator, so that our young children experience a wholesome childhood, not because they opt to become a facilitator as a last option, but with passion they come forward and they vow to work with children, young children. Not only that, I wish to see multi-sectoral collaboration among the relevant stakeholders, including the parents, to ensure that best is provided to the ECCD network in the country in terms of facility, resources, and also manpower. And I think there should be acceptance among the society that also children with disabilities can be included, not only in ECCD centers, but throughout the school years, and they go to adulthood and then employment, whereby they get to live a typical life as those without disabilities.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those final thoughts, Madam Pema. Prashanti, may I end with you? What is your dream? What do you wish to see for ECCDs in Bhutan? We have maybe a last minute two before we close, and I hand back to Noble. So give us your wish list for ECCDs in Bhutan.
Thank you, Namita. As a parent who's been through this journey, and on behalf of the parents I represent today from Phensem and parents who are not a part of Phensem, I'm sure everybody will agree with me. I want to say that like we've already talked about how important the stage of attending an ECCD center is for every child, irrespective of what that child's ability or disability. And what we hear very often is everybody says, yes, we want our society to be inclusive, and yes, we want to help you, but they're scared. They say that we don't know how to handle your child. We don't know how to handle a child with a disability. They are scared. I mean, it's human nature. I think we all fear the unknown, and that's okay, we get it. But at the same time, I just want to remind you all, everybody, that the children who are attending ECCDs are very small children. They're they start at the age of 3, 4, and go up to 6. They are very small and they're easy to handle, whether it's physically or emotionally. I mean, it's not like handling a 10 or a 12-year-old. So I think it might be a little scary, but it is not impossible. And you don't have to, I don't think it's necessary to think that you need like extensive training to start somewhere. I mean, look at Madam Yangree. She didn't know anything. She just started with an open heart. That was all. And I just want to request each and every ECCD center facilitator or a person who works over there to just, besides opening your doors, just open your hearts and let everybody come in. I think everything can happen one day at a time, you know, and for the parents of Phensem, our dream is to see every center in school, be it an ECCD center or a school, we want to see it inclusive. And I love what Pema said, you know, when she said, respect diversity. So it's not about helping. Please don't think when you're taking in a child with a disability that you're helping this person. You're not, you're just respecting that person as an individual. Each one of us is different, and we just respect that. And for children at the ECCD level, when the typically developing children, when they see a child who is a little different in their group, I mean, children are curious, they're cruel, they'll ask a lot of questions, but they're also very, very accepting. And they will grow up to be adults who have seen everybody, who've embraced diversity. And if we want to build an inclusive society, this is where we start. So that is my...
Well said, Prashanti. Yes. I'm looking now at the chat box and I realize there are lots of questions, a bunch of questions for Phensem, which may, yes, but maybe I will ask you to respond within the Facebook chat itself, because we've had so much fun chatting with each other that perhaps there isn't really too much of time to take questions. There was a comment from Karma Chumi Wangchuk. I think our ECCD facilitators beyond Thimphu don't know about agencies that are there to support them in their work with children with disabilities and additional needs. We need to let parents and facilitators know the players in the inclusive education ecosystem. And this is really true. It has been my experience as well, that there isn't that much of knowledge and awareness that's out there about things that already exist. Everyone sort of is already in a panic about all that doesn't exist. While in fact, a lot of things are in place. It's just not well known or well used. In the end, you know, when I reflect on our conversation over this period, so many things have come out. The fact that ECCDs build a foundation, it builds a foundation of perspective, it provides an opportunity of equality of experience. It can do so much that is so valuable, so that children may in fact move forward with a greater support of the community. Your infancy is your family, but there is that period between infancy and school where you need to allow the community in. And in a way, that is what an ECCD is set up to do. It allows a parent to release their fears, to let their child out gently into a larger community. And this is something that should be available to every citizen of a nation, because this early foundation, these early years are so precious. I began by saying that this period in a child's life is really where a tremendous amount of foundation skills are laid. In biology, if you look at brain development in this period, it's tremendous. It's in fact a bit scary, because before you are 5 or 6, so much of that foundation, of that network has been put in place as a result of your experience. None of us comes into parenthood having taken courses on how to raise a child, right? All of us search in Google and open books and ask our aunts and uncles and everybody else. So the question really is, how do we then, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. The question then is, shouldn't we be able to arm ourselves with what our own community has to offer? Can we not reach out to the ECCDs? And on the other side, can we look at ECCD preparation so that there is a step beyond? I think it's wonderful that we respect ECCD facilitators to come in with a respect of diversity, to come in acknowledging that everyone is a part of humanity, and our job is to respond to each individual at their level and sort of move them forward gently. That's a wonderful perspective. We need to clothe that perspective with actual skills. And that's really what, I think is one of the big challenges as well. A third area is really acknowledging the significant challenge of helping children make these transitions, moving from the small and tight comfort and safety of a home into a larger space of an ECCD, and moving from what is still an extended home. A good ECCD functions like an extended family. How do I move from there into the larger and more structured environment of a school? Understanding that there are children and families who will need supports that are larger than the ones that are already in place is perhaps a third area of great challenge. And finally, the reality that, in fact, much is centered and available, whether it's knowledge or actual facilities, are available in some areas in Bhutan, but not truly scattered and available as it should be through the length and breadth of the country. Before I hand over to Navodema, I want to also conclude by saying, when we discussed and set up this discussion, I suddenly felt deeply privileged because I've had deep and constant conversations with each of the stakeholders, the trainers, the service providers, the families, individually, one-on-one, focused on solving their problems. And in numerous situations, we've brought them all together. But this has been our first opportunity to have everyone sitting around the same table and having an opportunity to really listen to each other and to really be able to think together. I hope these conversations will continue. The advantage of a small country is that we should not be able to complain about not being able to reach each other. This is certainly something that I hope comes out from this webinar, is a stronger and deeper dialogue. With this, I'd like to hand over to Madam Navodema. And thank you from my side for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Dr. Namita. Listening to the conversation, it's very encouraging to hear about all the efforts on the part of the government, the ECCD centers and service providers. I understand that much remains to be done, again, in developing an effective system in providing services and support to our children to achieve whatever is the potential is. So, but definitely a progressive move on the part of the government as well as service providers. And for young parents, if you are listening out there, if you are having this big emotions, getting overwhelmed, if your child is of age to go to ECCD and has certain difficulties and challenges, I'm sure you would have known by now that you're not alone. It's better to reach out to other parents who have similar experiences. And we always have this Phensem, which is the parent support group, who also sort of like advises and counsels and then reaches out to parents. And we don't know. I mean, like they could be. You just have to make that big moment in terms of move to get your child, break your fear as well as your child's fear in terms of moving your child to Eccd. And you never know, there could be somebody like Madam Yangree and her team of facilitators in Hejo who are willing and open to work with your child. So with that, it brings us to the end of our webinar. And in closing, I would like to once again thank you, Dr. Namita, for moderating this excellent session, to our wonderful speakers for candidly sharing your experiences, and to everyone in the audience who have taken the interest to listen and participate. And before I sign off, I have a short announcement that later on in the afternoon around 3:30 p.m., we have a professional development workshop, which will be run by Dr. Namita and Madam Yangree. The invitations have been sent to a targeted group, but if there are the Eccd facilitators or teachers or parents in the audience who are interested to attend, the link will be shared on our page soon. And the PD workshop will cover how early opportunities can prepare children for their school years, how young brains learn, and how Eccds can create that environment and activities that will effectively support rich growth of children. With that, thank you, La.